Initially, on my first hunt of each year, the biggest adjustment to spending 10 days on the mountain is the transition from the rapid pace of society to the much slower pace of nature. Most things just don't happen quickly or on any kind of a schedule. It takes deliberate effort at first to adjust. For this final hunt, I deliberately slowed things up in the editing to give you a better feel of how things move on mountain time. It's a 9:45, day before the opener, getting off to a little bit later of a start, getting our gear situated at the trailhead here, but we've got the 2 llamas all loaded and ready to go, packs all set. So we have about 4,000 feet of, maybe 4,500 feet of elevation gain today, and to get to our camp about 10 miles back in, and then the long night wait till opening morning. We're super stoked. All of us got an elk tag and a deer tag, and got a couple of my buddies, Justin Gordon and Kendall Card. They're both with deer tags, so it's going to be a good time for sure. Here comes the rain, staying all day. This old house, a log pile house. But I'm still me. Opening morning. It was a frosty one last night. I actually had skim ice on the top of my jet boil on the water I'd left in there last night. Just got up to glass here about 20 minutes ago. Got a handful of bucks in the bottom here, 6 or 7 of them, nothing big so far. There's a bull bugling down in the bottom of the canyon, so maybe we'll have some play on him if we can't turn up a good buck this morning. But gotta keep glassing, and hopefully we'll find one that beds in a good spot. In addition to Wes, Justin, and Kendall, I'm also joined by photographer Jay Byers. With several groups of bucks spotted, the planning and scheming begins. So we just got up first day. We just came up onto this rim here. We're glassing. There's a big basin right here. We're glassing some bucks over here, kind of keeping an eye on them. Way across the way, we got some other bucks. A real big one that I think Justin wants to go after. We got elk bugling down below, so as an elk hunter with a deer tag, it's really hard to concentrate on deer. There's elk all over there, but it's actually a lot warmer than I thought. I thought it was going to be frigid this morning. It was all frosted over. Our tents were frosted over. But first time in the high country in Colorado, I'm stoked, really stoked. But I'm like, I just don't like the 189.9 buck. Mm-hmm. Just got to be in the 190 plus club.
That's a benefit to you, Mr. Card.
I mean, he's a 205, but look how crabby he is on the front. Dude, his velvet's the wrong color.
Getting restless, Justin and Kendall elect to go check out some of the other basins to see what they can turn up, leaving me intently watching and hoping one of the bucks below me would bed in an opportune location for a stalk. Unfortunately, none did, so we dove into the basin, hoping we could relocate the bull on the other side of the canyon. So it's a little after 5, and we've been kind of posted
up here in the vicinity of where we heard the elk and hoping that one of them would pop off so we could make a move on them, but they kind of went silent on us a couple hours ago. Well, really, as soon as we dropped in, they stopped making noise. So we're kind of rolling the dice and hoping that they'll, come a little later in the evening here, they'll start making noise again. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, uneventful round-trip hike down here at the bottom. We're going to try bugling here in a little bit, see if we can make one respond to us.
Unfortunately, we were never able to turn the bull up again, and all we got for our efforts was wet and a lot of exercise. It's morning, day 2. We're just getting ready to head up the ridge to our glassing spot. Yesterday we spent the second half of the day chasing after elk that didn't want to play. Got a handful of bucks in the basin. Should be back in there. Only one of them is a shooter though, and it's a group of 12 or 13 bucks, so it makes it pretty tough. I'm hoping they split up and are in a smaller group with the one I want to get after. So gonna be a little bit of a roll of the dice, but we'll see. Crossing the fingers. With nothing bedding in a stalkable position, this time I bugged out to see what I could turn up in another basin. Well, I've been watching this group of bucks for the last probably 45 minutes. There's a group of 20 that's spread out on this side of the basin, and then there's a group of 5 that's probably 250 yards from them, and I'd really like to go after that group of 5. It's less eyeballs, but to do that I would have to go upwind of that group of 20 and bump them, and if I could do it right, I could push them back further in the basin and hopefully not disturb that group of 5. That group of 20 is ridiculous. I need to break them up anyway, and hopefully, over the next few days, then have smaller groups of bucks to be trying to move on. There's one nice big 4x3 in that group of 20. He's up feeding right now. I'm going to wait and watch and see what he does. When he beds down, I'll decide whether I'm going to go for the big group or the small group. But I'm going to start getting ready here for the stalk. The bucks finally all settled in. I elected to go after the smaller group with fewer eyes. Just when you think you are safe to cover some ground rapidly and you drop your guard, it almost never fails that one of the bucks will change position and spoil the party. Glassed up 10 elk here. It's the third morning, and almost all of them are bulls. I gotta pull the spotting scope out to see how big they are, but what an unusual thing to see a bachelor herd of elk this late, but I'm not gonna complain. Sitting stationary, glassing for hours on frosty mornings is tough. Getting a hot drink and thawing out the fingers and toes will keep you glassing longer. With no bucks bedding in stalkable locations, I decided to make a play at the elk.
This group of 12 elk, they bedded. I thought they were going to drop down in the timber, but they ended up hanging up high. It's a really overcast day today, so I think that's why they're up, or they're still hanging up high. They're all bedded. I got 2 of them in a really good spot. I can stalk them, wouldn't even have to call to them. So if they stay there for another hour, we're in business. And as long as this wind will cooperate, that's the other big if. Alright, we're within about 200 yards of these elk right now, and it appears as though the wind's going to be good coming up out of the basin, so we should have a pretty ideal scenario. Got a couple of different options on poles to stalk, so once we get over there, we'll reevaluate, figure out which ones we're going for.
Just like that, with an eddy of the wind, the gig was up.
Kendall was gracious enough not to make me do rock, paper, scissors and let me go on this stalk.
Stock, and I'm like, I don't know where that other set of eyes is.
But everything just stayed aligned for the entire stalk. I mean, like,
He got up, so as he went off, the buck got up, moved location uphill maybe 15 yards, bedded back down. He ate the whole time, so all the time Justin's going on a stalk, this guy's eating. Justin goes up, didn't have good approach, came back down, and then all of a sudden, like,
every other buck except for one
got up.
stands up and starts feeding, and he's just laying there all by himself. And I'm on my back with my bow, and I move my bow, and then I shimmy with my butt, and it's just raining on me.
He opens up at this, and I'm like, he's gonna punch him right as he opens up.
And I got everything leveled up right as he started to go onto his stride, and just.
With Justin tagging out, he headed back to Utah. Camp was slowly getting a little quieter.
Dude, you would be proud.
Right
You would be proud. That was a south cock shot.
Oh, is that right?
Probably me to you.
No way.
Bedded. He didn't even
Sweet.
stand up.
Holy
Just
cow.
died right there in his bed.
Awesome.
Nice job, buddy.
Right on.
Oh,
Nice.
I'm so psyched.
No kidding. Man, look at his G2s are so long, his back tines.
First fuzzy buck and first
Yeah.
backcountry buck. I'm so psyched.
No kidding. No kidding.
We saw you guys for forever. Over, you guys were
really?
like taking
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nap or whatever. For a while, I'm like, oh, maybe they
Dude,
got something down, you know? I'm like, glass
got
guys
a
up.
story of
Then
my
there was a
own
while
now.
you're like curled up on your side, and I'm like, I think they're just sleeping.
Was it the 4x4 or the 4x1?
It was the 4x4.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
That
nice
4x1
buck.
is cool looking. We
dude.
saw him. He would be a stud if he was both
yeah,
sides.
Yeah, I wanted him so bad though. I mean, it looks like he has like a little moose paddle on the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
side.
Almost looking like he was a
Sweet.
little mini
Yeah.
me on one side.
We were trying to convince Kendall to go for him 2 days ago when we
Oh,
walked
dude,
out to
I
the
was
fingers.
all about that one, man.
And but then he's busted us as we were kind of joking around.
I came down off the top, and it looked like I could walk right out on the ledge past that little pond, and they're just right down below me.
Yeah.
Because we were from up on top. No depth perception.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you look right over the top, it's like, dude, that could be 20 yards, it could be 60. I got down there, it's like 100. And so I waved Wes down, so Wes came down, and we were kind of scratching our heads. It didn't look like we had any, option to get on those things at all. And then I was like, well, let's just walk up to the top of that little ridge that comes out above that little basin they're bedded in. So we got up to the top, and we're sitting there, and I was just like, there's still no way. And then I was looking, and I was like, the next little basin over, I was like, well, maybe if I dove into that, circled around, and then there's like a ditch where there would be like, there's a dry pond in there now.
Oh,
that
yeah,
would fill
yeah.
up in the wintertime.
There's big boulders around the other side of it. Yep.
Yep, and then a little drainage thing came out the bottom, and I was like, man, maybe there's enough depth to that I can get in
Sneak into that.
sneak down there. Sure enough, I was able to walk a good portion of the way, and then had to, get hunched over and then go real low, and then I came, ran out of cover, and one of that Super 2 was bedded facing me, and I was like, oh, so I.
Like the big two.
Not the one that you.
Oh,
this was a red.
But another
one.
one. He's a big two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was another one, or that big two was bedded facing me. I knew I was pinned down, and that 4-point, all I could see was from about here up. So I needed him to stand up for me to be able to shoot, and so I leaned back out of the line of sight of the 2-point, and I got Wes's attention, and I picked up a rock, and I was like, telling him to throw rocks off there, dude. He threw 34 rocks off the hill.
I threw 30. After 20, I was trying to hit the deer as hard as I could. I was chucking that thing.
It was nuts.
34
And only
rocks.
a couple of times did they even glance up the hill.
They was
and
like-
there's like thump, thump, thump.
I think with all the marmots and stuff around here, they're just used to that random.
I could
and
hear the
all
rocks-
the sheep walking above them all
Yeah.
the time.
I could hear the rocks whistling through the air as they were coming down.
Incoming mortars.
It was like, I think maybe after about 20, if I was a buck, I'd be like, I hear a lot of rocks roll, but this is pretty consistent rain of rocks coming down. Wes kept having to set the camera down and go on a rock search on the side of that hill.
I cleaned
like-
that sucker up.
It was crazy.
The following morning, Kendall and Jay broke camp and headed back home as well. A once bustling camp, almost a small village, had been reduced to just 2 members, Wes and I. The suddenness of it was strange, feeling almost as if we were the last 2 people on Earth. Though I am well acquainted with long solo hunts and the solitude that comes with it, I have to admit, the rapid exodus of my hunting partners left our once lively camp, now feeling very lonely. All the animals cleared out of the basin on their own accord, leaving the rest of the day to do some exploring with the hope of turning up a buck midday. I moved further down the ridge where I caught sight of 2 bucks that had gotten up out of their beds to feed. How? Why? Shot opportunities like this, 25 yards or less, are hard to get. You might go a whole season and only get one, or none. How had I screwed this one up? I couldn't help but wonder if I had just blown my one opportunity of the hunt. It's 20-2 on day 7, and we've looked over a lot of bucks already today, but none of them have been so kind as to bed in spots that were conducive for a stalk. So we dropped into the basin below camp, figuring that this is going to be our ace in the hole, and it looked like it was going to be dry there for a while. Then finally I turned up some bucks down towards the head of the basin across the way, small group of them, and after another 20 minutes or so glassing, covering the whole basin again because I couldn't find any of the bigger bucks, I found them further up in the same patch of willows, and it actually, I think, will make a better stalk where they're at. It's going to be traversing a lot of open country and depending on a lot of topography that I can't really tell from here whether it's going to work or not. But right now it's the only thing I got going on, and I don't want to sit here and just look. So I'm going to go after them, and might be a exercise, but is what it is at this point. I am got one more day after today, and I'd rather not have to use it up hunting deer. I'd rather go chase elk tomorrow.
Well, I've made it the hard part here. I'm probably 75 yards or less from where these bucks are bedded, but these willows are really tall. There's a rock that I might be able to stand up on if I can balance on top of it. And if the deer stand up, I might be able to get a shot, but that's a lot of ifs. I have to see how this unfolds. Just behind the jack pine, at less than 25 yards, a big 4x4 was up feeding. I knew it was only a matter of minutes before he would feed out from behind it and offer me a broadside shot. But with my final step into position, another buck came into view. A huge-bodied buck that dwarfed the other ones around him. He was an old buck, swayed back and pot-bellied, far past his prime, and unlikely to survive many more winters. His unique, funky rack, though smaller than my original target buck, showed much more character. My focus was immediately diverted. As more bucks popped up to feed, I knew it was only a matter of time before things came unglued. I needed to make something happen, and soon. My shot goes wide left. Oh yeah, that'll do right there. Stuck in the ground, good. I see maybe some bubbles there. That's pretty bright red blood. So I think I got lungs, I'm hoping. I heard Wes yell from over on the other side, so he saw all the action, and hopefully he knows right where it's at.
Man, oh man, check this dude out. He is a absolute bomber. He is not the biggest buck that was in that group, and I had an option. There's a 4x4 that would have outscored him by tape, but this guy had so much character that I wanted this guy the moment I laid eyes on him. From his oversized body to the 6x6, not including antler or eye guards, he's got 2 sticker points, 1 on each side matching, and he's got 2 inlines, 1 on each side coming off the back of his main beam. And eye guards, I mean, this buck is an old regressed buck. Weak in his forks, but just cool, super heavy. It actually makes his antlers look small, both his body and the mass on the antlers. Velvet survived really well, just a little bit torn up. I can't believe I pulled that stock off, man. Holy cow. Another buck in my underwear. How about that? I'll tell you what, it works, man. I had to push through those willows, and I was able to go through nice and silent, and look at this. Here are the results.
Despite the late hour, I was in no rush to process the buck into meat for my family. I wanted to be sure to honor him by taking meticulous care of each piece that would grace our table. It also provided a time to reflect over the trials of the past week. What had started out as a social experience had quickly shifted to one of much more solitude as each of my hunting partners filled their tags. Justin had taken a buck of his dreams. Kendall was baptized as a high country mule deer hunter with his first velvet buck. I was truly happy for both of them as they accomplished their goals. As the time for my hunt grew short, I knew I was facing the very real possibility that I might be the only one in our party not to notch a tag. There was no question my choice of equipment handicapped me in this open country, but I embraced the added demands my bow placed on me, the need to get closer, forcing me to plan a better stalk, to be more careful, deliberate in my execution, more perfect. Doubtless, the added restrictions hone your skills as a hunter and a woodsman to penetrate the defenses of a mature animal. I failed repeatedly with blown stalks and shots, but with each failure, I learned more that I would be able to draw on from future stalks. My choice of primitive equipment, by limiting my shot distance, was forcing me to sharpen my skills and become a more effective hunter, to push through when failure seemed imminent, to smile and shake off disappointment, and most of all, to remain positive. Further, the extra time I was able to spend on the mountain and the roller coaster of emotions through the challenges of the hunt left me with a feeling of satisfaction matched by few other experiences in my life. The more you put in, the more you get back. I would never want to suggest that my experience was better or more meaningful than my hunting partners. But when you are repeatedly faced with trial, repeatedly fail, repeatedly pick yourself back up again, and finally persevere, is that not the most fulfilling feeling one could ask for? The lessons learned stretch far beyond the mountain. They are carried into every aspect of life, relationships, family, business. If you have not embraced the challenge of hunting with a stickbow, perhaps now is the time to ask yourself if you are ready. The next morning, the elk weren't singing, and with dense, low cloud cover, we decided it was time to break camp, pick up the meat we'd cached the night before, and reunite with our families. It had been one of those hunts a person can only dream of. Camaraderie and loneliness, peacefulness, laughter, frustration and relief, fatigue, recovery, failure and success. It was a hunt that tested me mentally and emotionally, a week of learning, of reinforcing lessons I'd already experienced. The mountain had given me so much more than the meat that would feed my family. It had given me memories that I would cherish for my lifetime, reflecting back to those fleeting moments when no thoughts occupied my mind. Hunts like these test your character and your resolve. I am thankful. On this one, I was truly blessed.